okay, this is not hyperbole. This, to me, has the potential to be a very, very bad piece of news for Chicago Blackhawks fans who were looking for your team to actually prove itself as a squad that was better than the idea of a rebuild. You had yourselves leaders on this team like Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, Seabrook and Keith, the big four, as you would say. Somewhat upset about this team's direction in the offseason, where you traded away Brandon Saad, a very good NHL point producer, for Nikita Zadorov. If you go back in time and you do the trade trees, you essentially just traded away Artemi Panarin, who is one of the best players in the league, for Nikita Zadorov. And that's just following the trade tree. That's not me, making a straw man out of anything. It's just how it is. But because you guys were in a position where the Blackhawks were entering a rebuild, and it was confirmed with a statement they made online, you saw your captain out there being upset about that. You saw the guys that are older in the locker room come out and they were like, yeah, we're kind of upset. We didn't realize that this was the way we wanted to go down, but I guess we're in here now. We still want to win. We still have good talent. We still want to remain competitive. And hey, anything can happen with a Patrick Kane in your squad who can get 100 points easily every season. But now you have yourselves this. Because now, some of the hope you have for the future, some of the guys on your team that you've been making this rebuild for, yeah, these guys are out. Or at least one of them is guaranteed out. The other, at the time of this recording, is not guaranteed, but it looks very, very bad. Let's talk today about Kirby Dach, and let's talk about Alex Nylander too. Now, we'll start off with Kirby Dach, because at the time of this recording, it's 11:16 p.m., December 23rd, the night of on PST time. So, before we get into that, hey, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. It's Christmas Eve at the time this video's uploading, so for those who celebrate Christmas, I hope you guys have a good time. But Kirby Dach is in a position where yesterday in a preliminary game for Team Canada against Team Russia at the World Juniors, Kirby Dach had a weird moment where in the neutral zone he tried to go for a hit on the Russian guy who had the puck, but as Kirby Dach made contact with the guy, you can kind of see his right hand. It doesn't really go in the way that you want it to. Normally when you body check somebody, you're either hitting him with your forearm, or you're hitting him with your bicep, or you're hitting him with the underside of your forearm if you're coming in from a weird angle. Rarely do you actually hit a guy as if you're punching him, but it was even worse for Kirby Dach's case, because as he hit the Russian player, he was kind of in a weird position to get an awkward punch in there, and as a result, he tried moving his arm forward to get the forearm as the main point of contact, and instead Dach just ended up pressing his wrist, bent down in a weird, uncomfortable-looking angle, and then the pressure was applied. You could see him immediately afterwards take his glove off, and his hand is kind of like dangling there. Oh my gosh, this was terrible. He skates off, eventually he leaves the game, and it's said afterwards that yes, he's going to have to get an x-ray done because that wrist thing, that really did not look good for Kirby Dach. Now, I'm going to assume worst case scenario. Let's assume the wrist is absolutely broken, okay? That's what happened here. His wrist is dangling off of his arm, he's got no control or whatever. Let's Google that right now. How long does it take to recover from a broken wrist? It might take 8 weeks or longer for your wrist to heal. More severe breaks may not fully mend for 6 months, according to WebMD.com. Now, obviously, it varies from case to case, but if we're looking at a wrist injury for Kirby Dach and it's a minimum 8 weeks recovery time, what's going to happen 7 weeks from now when the World Juniors is done? Well, we're going to have the NHL season. The NHL season's going to be like halfway through by the time Kirby Dach recovers if his timeline is 8 weeks. And this is assuming the worst, of course. This is not guaranteed. I'm recording this video the night the injury actually happened and a day before I'm uploading it. So if anything has been updated by the time this video is uploaded, then we have no reason to fear if we have a positive conclusion. But with the way things are right now as I'm recording, we don't know. So if we're assuming worst case scenario here, 8 weeks to 6 months, if it's 6 months, this guy's not going to play for this entire year. If by some miracle the Blackhawks make the playoffs, yeah, he's not playing there either. So this could be absolutely detrimental to a Chicago Blackhawks team that was thriving so hard to break away from the idea that they were in a rebuild. And even though it's the GM, it's the social media staff or whatever that says they're in a rebuild, you're not going to convince the players on the ice to go down without a fight, especially if you have Taves, Keith, Seabrook, and Patrick Kane on your squad. It's just, Kirby Dach is supposed to be that guy to help you in that department, because if you take a look at what he did in the Stanley Cup Playoffs against the Vegas Golden Knights, as well as the first round, the preliminary round against the Edmonton Oilers, yeah, Kirby Dach was really good. This guy had really improved his game to a point where he was a very dominating, enforcing, and demanding of respect kind of guy in that Blackhawks lineup. And you sent him to the World Juniors, and he was so good over there in the short time he was actually able to play. We knew he had the skills to be the absolute best player in this tournament. And for what? A few minutes of playing time in a preliminary game against Russia where he leaves because he has a weird hit? Yeah, that sucks. And I don't even want to get into the entire debate as to whether or not the Blackhawks should have allowed a guy like this to go over to the World Juniors. The point is, if you let this guy go, hey, you're bearing that risk of an injury. Sure, it's unlikely for most people, but still, man, the unlucky bug strikes here. And it's not even just Kirby Dach, because there's another player over here who is indeed out as well that I have personally been such a big believer in that it's actually kind of being overshadowed by this Kirby Dach thing. Let's talk about Nylander. And no, we're not talking about William Nylander, we're talking about Alex Nylander, William Nylander's younger brother, who had successful surgery on Monday to repair a meniscus tear in his left knee. Team physician Dr. Michael Terry says he expects Alex to return to hockey-related activities in approximately 4 to 6 months. Oh my gosh. This is a guy who, whether you like it or not, you could say, oh, this guy wasn't the best player on the team. Why do we care about Alex Nylander? Well, hold your horses right there. Even though this guy might not be a Patrick Kane-like player on your lineup, the fact is Alex Nylander is a 22-year-old young forward that you acquired in the Henri Jokiharju trade. Remember everybody was talking about how Jokiharju was going to be one of the best big things for the Blackhawks in the near future? Yeah, you traded that guy away for Nylander, who was able to get a pretty decent amount of points last year in the NHL in his first full NHL season. 26 points, 65 games. Sure, he didn't show up in the playoffs, but this guy was a rookie. This guy was coming over here as a 22-year-old player who was drafted out of 2016, who had seen better days earlier on in his draft year and his draft plus 1 year, and who really wasn't living up to the hype that was set out for him back when the Buffalo Sabres drafted him in the top 10. This was a reclamation project, and whether you like it or not, these are the kinds of guys who, as you're going through a rebuild, you want to see improve and solidify themselves as NHL talents. Alex Nylander missing another 4 to 6 months of hockey will sideline him for maybe even the full season, projectedly speaking at least. And when you're thinking about the long-term growth potential of the players you have, Dylan Strome, Kirby Dach, Alex Nylander, Alex DeBrincat, the next generation of Chicago Blackhawks once Taves, Kane, Keith, and Seabrook are all gone, this is a big step back. This is terrible. What's going to happen now with Alex Nylander this time a year from now when the Stanley Cup is awarded in June or whatever of 2021, and then the 2021-2022 season starts maybe in October or November or something, maybe even January? What's going to happen then with Alex Nylander? What's going to happen with Kirby Dach if he takes about 6 months to recover, like it says some wrist injuries could take to heal on WebMD? This is terrible news for the Blackhawks because no matter how you slice it, when you take a look at how this team is impacted today, Alex Nylander was a forward who was getting better throughout the years. When you take a look at it objectively today, Kirby Dach was a great player who got injured in the World Juniors for a timeline that we have no idea what is at the moment, but it could be very long. And if you're taking a look at the long-term projectability of these players, having setback years like these could really, really turn things off, and it could take a very long time to get things back in the groove again. I've seen this a lot with Vancouver Canucks prospect Olli Juolevi. The guy just cannot stop getting injured year after year, and it's really stunted his development and put him in a spot where he's only starting to crack the NHL now. It's 2021. This guy was drafted in 2016, just like that Alex Nylander. And if Nylander pans out, man, I remember back in 2016, some people were saying that Alex had the potential to be better than William. And William Nylander is probably the best dollar for value player on the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. So, that's our talk of the Chicago Blackhawks. This really does suck. I feel for the Blackhawks fans out there who have to endure a few more months of pain if you assume the worst for Kirby, Dach. But yeah, talk to me in the comments what you think about this stuff. Dach, Nylander, the Blackhawks, the rebuild, etc. I hope you enjoyed this video. So that shows the 99. And bye.